Welcome to the Wing Life Podcast, where we talk about wing foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy this great sport. Hey, Mike. Thanks a lot for joining.
Oh, well, thank you, Luke. Really appreciate the interview. For those of you that don't know, my name is Mike Raper. I'm the brand director for North Foils and North Kiteboarding, but today I think we're going to be talking about foils. So kind of got the foil froth on, so we'll crash into that.
Awesome.
I'm based here in New Zealand with the product and marketing team, so I run the North Foils brand. We've got a fantastic team of designers, engineers, marketers, and we're really lucky, blessed to be in Auckland, which just has a range of fantastic conditions all year round. So really like them.
Oh yeah, New Zealand is like renowned. So many different beach breaks, so many beautiful little spots there. Yeah. How long have you lived there?
I've only been back here about 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
Actually learning to be a North Islander, if that makes sense. New Zealand's going to split into two islands, one in the far north and one in the south. I was originally sort of family and everything from the south, but moved up to Auckland approximately 6 years ago. So I'm just learning to be what we call an Aucklander. Absolutely loving it. Sort of subtropical conditions, and the surf's always on. So it's pretty good sport.
Awesome. Where were you born, Mike?
Born in New Zealand, Wellington, but moved to Hong Kong when I was kind of about 5 years old.
Okay.
I grew up in Hong Kong until I was about 15, 16, came back here, school, university, down in Canterbury, Christchurch, and then lived in Hawaii for a year and a bit, off and on, and then to basically travel a fair bit. So lived in Italy for a year, brand headquarters originally for a former brand that I worked for. And then eventually ended up moving to China, Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Lived in Hong Kong for about 17 years, I think it was, just managing the Cabrina brand.
Oh, okay.
So, had a lot of fun. It's been great fun. Sort of, I can't consider myself a little bit international in that sense. I've done a lot of traveling. And okay, last count, I think I visited about 60-something countries. So
no way.
Luckily in the industry, predominantly it's good beaches with wind and surf. So I've had a pretty good, lucky journey so far.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Hey, when was the first time you came into contact and got the bug to even start in wind?
Wind, oh man, young. So,
yeah.
I grew up in Hong Kong. Dad was a competitive sailor in the international match racing circuit, and I was he eventually became a rear commodore of the Hong Kong Yacht Club.
Oh, no way.
I was one of those little groms that grew up in the yacht club in the water, sailing, boarding, found surfing at a young age. Not that surf was great in Hong Kong, but it wasn't too bad. And managed to get into the sailing, competitive sailing, dinghy racing, did a few worlds and Flying 15s and various other levels, but mainly found the windsurfing when I was about 11. Really excited, really lucky to have some of the biggest manufacturers of windsurfing equipment in the world based in Hong Kong and China.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That was Neil Pride and Gastra back in the day. So I used to get the old Robbie Nash Gastra wave sail hand-me-downs and the Bjorn Dunkerbeck Neil Pride sails for racing. So I could buy them all not a lot of people rode them in Hong Kong, so I could pick them up for a few $100s each. So I was always super lucky at sort of school, university in New Zealand, being able to come back and pick up fairly inexpensive gear because, recognize that kiteboarding, windsurfing, foiling, they're all fairly expensive sports, what I call luxury water sports. It's a challenge to be able to afford a lot of the equipment.
Oh yeah, no, big time. No, awesome.
But always had the bug that I'm on the water sort of 2-3 days a week, and just absolutely love what I'm doing, to be honest.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's one thing. I talked to a friend of mine today, and we're helping out at another job that I'm working on, and the guy gets to live in his passion and work in his passion. And I was like, hey, he runs a bike shop and he's an avid cyclist. And I said, hey, would you ever do anything else? He's like, no, when you find that niche where you can put in, I know you've been putting in a lot of hours. You guys have been really busy over at North lately with a lot going on. But when you find that niche, you can, it's an accelerated, you're not drudging, I guess, as much. It's more, you can connect with passion and love and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's, I consider myself super lucky. I've always been in the right place at the right time. Not the smartest person in the world, but I definitely work hard. and I'm pretty good at surrounding myself with really exceptional people. So I think that's kind of my superpower if I ever had one. Be just connecting with good people, smart people, and being able to work in the industry. And I think I've been in it now for about 30 years, so I consider myself a little bit of an old timer. But still trying to stay young. If I've just turned 50, but
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm still as frothy now as I was back in the day. So just being able to work in China for most of the noughties and most of until I think 2017. I was spending a lot of time up in the factories. So you spend a day a week in the factory just working through the manufacturing processes, product development,
Oh, wow.
and the cycles and the systems that work in there. So it was, we were lucky to. I've just been lucky to have that balance of both sport. I used to compete in kiteboarding early days on sort of some of the early Red Bull competitions events. I got to ride at a fairly high level, and then transfer that passion into making products for kiteboarding in the beginning. For, as I mentioned, for Cabrina, and then obviously more recently from about 2018 onwards, we took back the North brand. Well, we had the brand, but we took back the license from Boards and More.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asked to set up a team here in New Zealand where we brought together some of my favorite people in the industry, and luckily they kind of all jumped on board and saw the opportunity of working with a brand like North that has access to North Sails technologies and materials. A lot of people don't realize that North Sails was established 1957 and has this incredible heritage of making materials, hence why we've put so much energy and effort into our wings, specifically for wing foiling. A lot of it comes down to materials and that material technology transferring into the elongation properties or working with materials and designs to really get that form and function working together at a more hopefully a more affordable price. Recognize these products are kind of up there in price as premium pricing, but we're trying to give our customers the best technology we can to the lowest possible retail price. So it's been really exciting. It's an incredible journey and a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what was your first entry into the industry, if we can touch on that?
I was early days. I think I used to work retail during university holidays. I was kind of trading. I'd buy things up in Hong Kong, China, and bring them back to New Zealand and sell them. And that was part of my income. And then the other part was working as a windsurf instructor and a surf instructor. So I used to do that for the majority of my income. So I ended up working at a retail store. That kind of led to repping and being an agent for New Zealand and then Australia, and then working with the sales force for the old brand in Europe and helping them in the early days. So I think I did that in 2000, 2001, showing my age here a little bit. And then got that kind of transition to an offer to move to Hong Kong to work in the Neo Pride headquarters with Neo Pride Windsurfing and with Cabrina, NP, some of those other brands. And I took that opportunity, ran with that, kind of sold my soul a little bit to the devil in the sense that Hong Kong doesn't have the best conditions, to be honest, but really enjoyed the ability to learn from a boss like Neil Pride, who was just one of the legends in the industry, just morally, ethically, really honest and really sound, but just able to be nimble while still running a pretty big company, pretty big brand. So learned a lot. He'd come in, he'd pound his fist and spit and froth, and we'd move and we'd change and we'd pivot and we'd try to improve our products. So over that time, just learned a huge amount. And also creating really good relationships with our suppliers. Suppliers are as much a part of this business as anything. Creating those long-term partnerships with them and the understanding. Like every day, we talk about how amazing our partners are on the manufacturing side. The knowledge, the experience they bring to the partnership is just incredible. And we really rely on those partners hugely for our designers, engineers, and product managers. So it's that. Sorry, yeah. So I've been around for a while. As I mentioned, started the North again in 2018. I think we designed an entire kiteboarding range in just under 12 months. And launched in the market 2019. We're a little bit late, to the foiling market. We were looking at kiteboarding for those first couple of years and just really investing the majority of our time in getting a really solid kiteboarding foundation. So we've gone from zero turnover in 2018 to, I think we're now number 2 in the market for kiteboarding. So we've done a phenomenally good job to get a really solid, consistent range of products that are performing at the highest levels, winning competitions, hitting the podiums constantly. So we're really proud of the success of that business. And that allowed us to then sort of change a little bit, and we started developing foiling products at the end of 2019. So we were a little bit later to the game compared to some of our major competitors. And that definitely put us on the back foot, but it also gave us an opportunity to test their products, benchmark their products, and really clarify. Sometimes if you're at the bleeding edge, it's quite hard to. Sometimes you make a product and it does or doesn't work. Where we were able to benchmark off their products and really decide a direction for our brand. And our goal was to really keep it simple, keep it easy to use, but most importantly, still keep the performance of the product. With a really good sort of affordability. So I still believe North foils especially are some of the most high performance and affordable foils in the market. However, a lot of our competitors have just got a little bit more of a snowball effect, where there's a lot of people recognize the different brands and they buy what they see. But, I always ask everyone, please give North a go, give it a try. We've been investing really heavily recently into not only the wings and the boards, but most importantly, the foils, the hydrofoil system. And that's been a really big push for us.
Yeah, let's go into that system, because it's unique, it's interesting, and there's good engineering behind it. So let's go in. Let's dig into it.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, we kind of, it's a classic. I always say this to everybody: just flip over a North foil. And just put some weight on the wing and just feel the bend of the mast, especially our carbon masts, and feel that torsional flex by twisting those wingtips forward and aft. And you'll find that the geometry and the stiffness of our Sonar Foil carbon system is as good, if not better, than some of our competitors. In fact, our standard carbon system, even on the data, because we measure it all ourselves, that data, we're actually up there with some of the high modulus systems, and especially the connection between the mast and the fuse is critically important. We have a system called Geolock, which we've patented, and that really does give us a really stiff performance between the mast, the fuse, and the front wings. We've worked really hard. We've been a little bit slower in the beginning, but we really ramped up over the past 3-4 years to start to deliver some phenomenal front wings, performance-wise. And I think we've really come from a sailing heritage background with Uli, our product manager for foils, is a naval architect, so his understanding of fairing and shapes and what works and what doesn't work has been amazing. But most importantly, his ability he's a composite specialist. He's feeds, breathes, lives, sleeps carbon, and lay up some materials. And that again, in combination with our wing designer, Daniel, who's just the most intelligent person I've ever met, is that they're able to make these samples and prototypes that we can put out to our test team and really push the limits of what's possible. So we're really proud of the series of wings that we have on the market. There's basically 3 of them.
Okay.
There's the HA series, which stands for high aspect ratio, which is very high speeds, real efficient glide, but they do have quite a high stall speed, so they can sort of drop off foil at quite a high speed. So you've got to drive them at a high speed. Great for racing, great for winging. If you're towing in on huge waves, some of the smaller wings are just fantastic speed to allow you to get out in front of the wave and race some of those big 30, 40-foot wave faces. But all the way down to...
I have a question. Can I hop on my 2-footers? Can I use that and surf on a 2-footer?
Not HAs you can, but you've got to drive them fast. And that's where that's why we've kind of got the HAs here, and it is a small percentage of our sales, but the majority of our sales are in what we call the MA series. So this is a medium aspect ratio series, and it sits in the middle of the performance. And the MAs have a huge wind range. They've got a really good bottom end, so they've got a very low stall speed. Yet when you push them with a wing, or if you are towing on some bigger waves or riding prone surfing, you can really drive them at a super high speed, and not as fast as the HAs, but you know what? Not far off on the speed spectrum. So big speed range, quite a narrow span, really fun to roll and carve and turn. And as a family of products, you can start on the biggest MAs at the 2400, 2100, 1850 in the packages, 1500 even. And this is what we kind of call our beginner intermediate series of sizes. So if you're a really big dude, let's say you're living in Florida, You've got light wing conditions. You can get out the 2400 or the 2100 and you can get up and get riding. However, the 2100 and 1850 are kind of about package wings. Those first wings that you buy if you're getting into the sport, really easy to use, really easy to get up on foil. And most importantly, all of our wings in that series have an incredible pitch stability. Now, not everyone knows what pitch stability is, but what it means is when you're going at a slow speed or a high speed, the pitch of the angle of the wing doesn't change. So it's really stable. It stays really consistent. Some brands, you have to move your weight forward as you start to go faster because the wings start to lift.
Yeah.
Because they're creating so much lift. Or when you start to go a little bit slower, some of their wings kind of have a tendency to drop down a little bit. So we've made sure that all of our wings, no matter what size, have an incredible pitch stability. So you do not need to move your feet on the board. And that's across our HA range, MA range, and our SF range, which I'll come into in a second.
Yeah, sure.
The MA range, effectively, those top 4 sizes, those are kind of our big volume sellers, especially there's a lot of people coming into the sport. Makes it really easy. You can use them as your light wind front wings in the future. And then as you get down into the next sizes, the 1200, the 1050, the 850, the 700, those next 4 smaller sizes are amazing for free ride winging. You can ride a wave, you can go fast, they've got a low stall speed, and they've still got a really familiar feel that you've had on the bigger sizes. My personal favorite, I'll put some out before the meeting, but
sweet.
For example, that's our 20, I think it's 21, 2100.
All right.
And that's, as you can see, it's a pretty big wing, but very, very easy to use, and has an incredibly high top end speed. The MA 850 in comparison, so in the same range of products, but the MA 850 definitely it's got a slightly elliptical shape, has a really nice high top end speed.
Yeah, turn down.
Very fast, very fun, and just rolls from side to side. That's our newest wing. So these wings have only just launched. And I think we call them the MA V2s. We had a range of MAs in the beginning, but we've really been working on these for the past 18 months through the whole range of sizes. And the feedback has been fantastic.
Oh, beautiful.
Absolutely fantastic. Retailers, consumers, schools, riders, everyone's come back and just said, hey, look, one of the best all-round, I'm not just saying that, I'm genuinely one of the best all-round MA wings on the market. So if anyone's listening, please give them a go. My personal, that 850 is my go-to most of the time. I'm 92 kilograms, over 200 pounds. A little bit of a dad bod, but working on that. But it really works well for those. The 850 is just that beautiful balance for size that just works so well. You can still pump it a little bit, but the roll and the carve is just phenomenal. And it's just got such a low stall speed. Like when you're going for transitions, jibes, especially tacks, it just kind of carries you through those tacks so gently and easy.
Isn't it crazy?
So yeah, really, really proud of the investor.
Isn't it crazy that we're talking 850 and we're talking about glide and we're talking about easier transitions? Because before you would have just dropped like a stone.
I literally just had a friend, he just got back yesterday and he's just spent like 3 weeks in Maui and just been watching him progress over the past year and a half. And he's literally gone from these big wings. And I said, look, dude, take the 850, take it to Maui, see what you think. He's like, Mike, it's too small. I've only ever ridden like 1050s, smallest, and 1200s. He came back and he goes, "You favorite 850."
Yeah,
I think just having that consistent wind and having enough power for the 3.5 or 4.2 front wing has just meant that he's had an amazing ability to and that he just came back and he said the roll was incredible, wave riding was amazing, the top end he said he was just blitzing people on the water for speed, yet he said on transitions and slowing down and carving on those waves, he said the really low stall speed was just phenomenal.
Oh wow!
So no, we're super proud. None of the wings have any tip breach or ventilation along the wingtips. The water flow just really reconnects beautifully to the wings. So yeah, super proud and can't wait for everyone to try them.
Tip out with these and they won't, like, because the earlier stuff, as soon as you got any part of the foil out of the water, it would just collapse.
Yeah, it was. I think it's been a big learning curve for us. We've now none of our HA series, MA series, or SF series have any tip breach issues. We've we've figured out how to, without giving any IP away, we've figured out how to resolve that and make sure that the flow just connects immediately afterwards.
Oh, beautiful.
I think the other wing series that we have is the SFs. SF stands for surf. So effectively, the surf series kind of operate at the lower end of the speed spectrum. So they've got an incredibly low stall speed. They don't have a super high top end speed, but if you're into wave riding and carving and kind of most people, I see a pretty big market of people who go winging, want to crank up wind and depower the wings off the leading edge and just surf downwind. Like you can, it's kind of like a powder run. You've just got lumps and bumps everywhere. You can crank those tight turns on some of those bigger open ocean swells. You can come in and ride in and sort of pull out before you get to the beach break. And the SF series really allows you to do that. We launched the 1230, the 1080, and the 930 in March. And we're just releasing now the new SF, I was going to get sizes right, SF 830 and SF 680.
Wow.
And honestly, the SF 830 has become one of my new favorites for wave riding, proning, towing. The SF series is fantastic for prone surfing. So it's really our surf range of boards. You can downwind with them. They do have a lower speed. So when you get into those open ocean swells, really big ones, we don't recommend the SF series. But if you want to get into the SUP, you want to get into the prone surf, you want to do sort of small lumps and bumps for downwinding, where they haven't got too long a fetch and they're a fairly close period, then the SS work really, really well, especially the 680. So incredible feedback from team riders, customers, and the SF series just big. And also actually for some people who want to use a wing for light winging conditions, sometimes they find the SF series is, if you just want to go out, you don't want to go super nuking fast, but you do want to go out and you just want to carve turns and you want to do transitions without coming off the foil. You can pair the SF front wings for that as well. So really versatile wings, both the SF and the MA series. But the MA series definitely has the biggest win range. So if you're a winger, go MA. If you're a winger who likes a little bit of surf, go maybe consider the SF series and give them a demo at your local retailer. And if you want to go super fast, the HA series definitely a lot of fun.
Oh, sweet.
And obviously it's super important to pair the rear stabilizers with the front wings.
Yes,
so the big
sir.
mistake a lot of people don't make, or a lot of people make, is not pairing a really fast stabilizer with a fast front wing and a slow stabilizer with a slower wing. You just don't want those two. You want to get that combo correct, because if you get it wrong and let's say you've got a really slow front wing and you've got a super high fast rear stabilizer, it's just not going to engage and create lift at that low speed. So you really don't have anything there to push against. So make sure you've got a slower rear stabilizer. We've got a Foil Rider's Guide is a fantastic A to Z on the entire North Foil system. It really does help you understand what, do I go aluminium? Do I go carbon? What length of mast do I go for? 72, 85, winging's predominantly 85, proning's kind of 72, can be 85 on big days, overhead days. And then obviously the benefits of those products. And most importantly, what front wings, because you buy a Sonar Foil edition, that means a mast, a fuse, and a rear stabilizer in a bag. And then you're able to put a front wing. You choose a front wing that you want to go with that. So our system is completely modular. You'll never grow out of it. We have no intention of changing the system. So once you buy into that ecosystem, that modular ecosystem, you know that you can always pair and play with different fuse lengths, 600, 700.
Could we check out your fuse? Would you have any fuses around that we could see?
Yeah. It's a little bit salty because I was out on it yesterday, but
lucky man.
Effectively, yeah. So we have what we call the C600, C700 fuselage length. So 600 is being 600 mil from nose to tip, tip to tail. Then we also have the 700. This is a 600 I've got here, just paired with a 830 front SF 830 front wing.
Okay.
And then I've got a new S185 rear stabilizer, one just on there.
Oh, beautiful.
That's just kind of my go-to for some of those smaller days when it's going to waste to sort of head and a half for riding on the surf. Really fun. But the the benefit of our system, I don't know if you can see that,
Yeah,
but
we can see
just
it.
come back a little bit.
Sure.
Benefit of that is that you can see some of the industry have their rear stabilizer below the fuselage.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have ours above, on the top of the fuselage. So it's actually a little bit higher than front wing. Reason being is that when you get close to breaching, a lot of our competitors, when they breach the front wing, you fall off the board quite easily. So all of our front wings, all of our sonar systems, the rear wing is actually positioned on top of the fuselage, which means it's in cleaner water. But most importantly, it's an early warning system. So when you're riding along, especially winging, and you just come a little bit too high to the surface, you start to breach your stabilizer before you breach your front wing. What that means is it becomes an early indicator that you're getting really close to the surface, and if you come up any higher, your front wing is going to breach. So what happens is you get this feeling on your back, so you're like, oh, I'm a bit high, and you quickly put your weight forward, and 9 out of 10 times you're able to avoid the front wing breaching.
Oh, cool.
So we just call this early indication for breaching, and it just makes such a huge difference to riding. People don't realize, but I think most of the industry, a lot of the industry is still based on putting their rear stabilizers underneath, and you just don't have that benefit. So it's one of the key features of the North Sonar Foil system.
Oh, cool. Hey, can we check out that geolock that you were saying that you had patented?
Oh, yeah. So the geolock, effectively, geolock is a connection between the mast here. So it's the bottom of the mast, the top of the mast. I've actually got the screws plugged in here, so I can't fit it into it directly because I need to unscrew the screws. But effectively, this system goes into the fuselage, and it's a wedge fit, which means the load from all that load that's coming through is going in a wedge, and there's no load on the screws. A lot of our competitors have a lot of load on the screws, whereas the screws literally just hold it in place. But what's happening is you're pushing this mast into fuselage, and that wedge fit is creating a moment. So all that energy from a physics perspective is coming through and being perfectly distributed along that fuselage. And that's what gives us a really stable, stiff connection system. We call that geo-lock because it locks into place. So we're really, really proud of that connection system. And then obviously on the front of the wings, let's see, I don't know if you can see it here. On the front of the wings, we just have a connection, a three bolt connection system. All of our hardware is entirely M8.
Okay.
So there is no combinations of M8, M7, M6. Every single tool in our system is entirely M8. You'll notice the measurements, the screw sizes are listed on actually printed onto the screw.
Okay.
And the size that we recommend for each wing is also, so it's kind of kook-proof in the sense that you just can't really get it wrong.
No, beautiful.
We do have a really cool shim system. I don't know if you can see the green.
Yep.
On the tip there, I'm just running a 1 degree shim on there at the moment because it was a pretty small day and I wanted a little bit more front foot pressure.
Okay.
And the shim kit's another great way if you're getting into more advanced riding of playing around with the system and just playing around with the feels. Everyone's got different feels. Everyone wants different front foot pressure. But out of the box, it's perfect. You don't need to tune it. And that's actually one of the biggest benefits of the North system is that we've done the maths and we've done the physics on, I'm surrounded by pretty incredible engineers who've kind of worked out a formula where if you can imagine you've got a front wing rear stabilizer, the center of lift in the front wing is always calculated, the distance between the lift and the front wing and the front of the mast, that distance is always the same. So you always know that the amount of lift coming through your front wing in relation to where your mast is always the same. So no matter what fuse you're running, no matter what wing you're running, you've always got this really consistent feel, which means that mast in the track on the bottom of the board, that's pretty consistent. Like you only ever need to gently maybe move it forward, sort of maximum 1 inch, minimum 1 inch at the back. We've got a lot more track there if you want it, but most of the time our customers just don't need it. Out of the box, our foils work really well. And we have an indicator where roughly if you're an 80 kilogram rider, then we have the indication and that's where you start. If you're a little bit lighter, you can move the track back. If you're a little bit heavier, you can move the track forward. But based on your weight, you have a really consistent feel for all of our sonar systems. So I talked about that pitch stability, talked about the stiffness, talked about the no need to, unlike some brands where they've designed the foils in different times and over a period of time, we've always designed to this formula to make sure that you have a really consistent feel for all of the North foils and Sonar Foil systems.
Nice.
That in combination with where it is on the board is critically important as well. Like, where you put your back foot strap compared to your front foot strap when you're standing on the board is super important as well. A lot of people don't realize that with the North board, to get up on plane we all agree is one of the hardest things to do. So getting up on plane, off the water, releasing from the water onto foil is really important. Now, that's when you don't have technique in the beginning, you're not using foot straps, you'll just gently lift up on a North fork. However, if you do have a little bit of pump technique, we've designed our boards, foot strap positions, to be perfectly matched with where the mast is in the box track system. Meaning you can slip your feet into the foot straps before you get up on foil. You can slip your feet into foot straps, and when you get up riding, they will be in exactly the same place. You don't need to move your feet around the board before you get up on plane and once you're up on foil. A lot of brands, you have to take your back foot out. You have to lean it really close to the front foot. So you've got your front foot in the foot strap, but your back foot's kind of floating. They need to do that to get the weight forward, to get the board flattened off. We found if you can get both feet into the foot straps before you get up on plane, that's when you pump. Like if you ever stand still and you put your feet together, here's an example. If you put your feet together and ask your friend to push you, you'll fall over. If you have your feet, shoulder widths apart, your friend pushes you, you're so much more stable.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we've worked on, is making sure that you can get both of your feet into the foot strap before you get up on plane. And that enables you to give a really good hard pump so you're not falling over. And that will help you get up onto foil more easily. A lot of our competitors have a lot of volume at the front of the board and not enough volume at the back of the board. So what happens, the board just sinks. So the tail sinks at the back, and you can put your front foot in the foot strap, but you cannot, on a competitor's board, put your foot at the back of the board. You have to put it right next to your front foot to flatten off the balance of the board, the volume distribution on the board, to get the board flat. We all know when the board's flat, it goes faster through the water and it lifts up onto plane faster. But if your board's sinking at the back, it's really hard to get your board to plane through the water quickly so you can disengage and reduce the friction. So really important, lots of volume in the tail of the board. Foot strap position is really important. We calculate both of those in relation to the mast position, in relation to the center of lift in the wing. And we've kind of find those 4 calculations. The 5th calculation, which is critically important, I'm giving away a little bit of IP here, is the front foot is that center of effort. So when you push down on the front foot, if you don't have your front foot in the right position, you'll find if you push down, the foil will just stay there, but we want the foil to go down and lift up. And so you're able to change the pitch angle. And that makes a big difference when you're bouncing and you're rolling on a wave or a lump or a bump, being able to have that center of effort and that front foot and finding that sweet spot. So we kind of found that formula, that perfect formula.
Oh, awesome.
And that's what we've been working to. And I think that's why a lot of our customers, when they first ride a setup from North, are like, wow, that was easy. And the performance comes and they're like, wow, the performance is there, the ease of use is there. We talked about as a brand trying to focus on making this sport easier, more accessible for the average customer to get into it. And it's like, it's not like kiteboarding where you need 10 hours of lessons, instructor, you put your life in the hands. With foiling, you can get a couple of lessons and then, maybe from a pro instructor or a school, but then pretty quickly you can learn from a friend or an aunt, an uncle, cousin, brother, mate, just who can keep an eye on you for those next 5-6 sessions. And within 10 sessions, the learning curve is so fast. We're so lucky with winging in the sense that it loves gusty conditions. You can paddle out. If you get in trouble, you can paddle back in. You're not sinking into the water. Like there's just so many benefits to foiling. And it kind of opens up, wing foiling, just opens up this world of opportunity with all these other amazing foiling products, foiling sports, sorry. I mean, prone surfing, kicksails, wake foiling, boat foiling, just getting up on a boat, in those first tries, just getting up on foil behind the boat's pretty exhilarating for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, big time.
And obviously all the way to downwinding and pumping and there's just, you look at that tree of branches of different sports that you can do now. It's pretty insane, really.
It's crazy how
sorry,
quickly.
I'm frothing
Yeah,
again.
you froth away. It's crazy how quickly it's accelerating as well. And then, so where are you getting your ideas from for like your V1 MAs to your V2 MAs? Are you getting that from obviously team, riders, public?
Trial and error experience, just internally with our customers' feedback's obviously really key. A lot of our test riders just saying, "Hey, Mike, you're Daniel and Uli, we just really want it to do this, this, and this. We're really looking for the performance in these directions." And I think obviously Daniel and Uli are kind of the more intelligent side of the team. They're able to work out with CFT and with the experience that they've got from sailing and boat building and naval architecture, how that works. And just having that science it really, you get when you can just ride and test without the science, but you're always experimenting. You're always, what if we did this? What if we did that? There's no science behind it. Whereas we've been incredibly lucky to have the science, because they're able to say, hey, look, we do this, it should do that. And 8 out of 10 times, 4 out of 5 times, they're right. And we go out, we test on the water, we come back and go, holy crap, that was next level. We completely nailed it in this direction, but maybe there's a sacrifice here. How do we improve that? And just kind of, it's multiple iterations. We're incredibly lucky to be based here in Auckland. Sort of has been the Home America's Cup over the past few years, and we've got our sister company. Is actually, a lot of people don't realize, obviously with North Sails, but also with Southern Spars. The Southern Spars they manufacture the world's largest masts on sailing yachts and booms and all the luxury yachts, but more importantly, the racing side of their business is phenomenal. They do most of the America's Cup rigging from all these super high performance composite specialists, and they've got CNC machines, and we're able to do a molding and a prototype and iterations there. And we've got this fantastic partnership with Southern Spars, the CEO there, Mark. And we've just been able to set up this really rapid prototyping iteration system, so we can go out regularly, iterate. And it's that beautiful fast development cycle that's really giving us the edge at the moment.
Oh, beautiful.
We're able to test all these theories, these ideas, get them on the water, and you can test in G10, but it really helps to be testing in the materials you're going to manufacture from. So pre-preg carbons and making sure we get the core materials correct really does make a big difference to the feel of those wings and those systems. So yeah, incredibly privileged to have them literally 15 minutes down the road. And we've got a great relationship with them. So we're just cranking through the samples at the moment.
Oh, beautiful. Nice. And how far into the future do you guys go before you releasing? You're always R&Ding. So is there some, obviously, and you can't share it, which is fine, but what is it that you guys are, how far, do you have stuff that you're like, oh, I can't wait to share this in a couple of years? Or
God, I do so much. I've got to be really careful. I hate this. I hate those questions. Yeah, we've got to be super careful what we talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got, to be fair, we've got, so I can be a little bit open. We've got some really cool pump wings coming. Okay. So, the flat water pump scene, especially in lakes, Europe, just people, instead of going for a jog in the morning, if you got a dock and something close by, take a running jump, go for a pump for 20 minutes. Your legs are absolutely fried. You've got an incredible cardio workout, and you can come back in and that's your buzz for the day. You don't get that kind of early afternoon. I haven't done any sport today kind of feeling. So the pumping's growing. I think especially in places like Holland and Europe and flat water locations where there's not a lot of wind, but there's a lot of water. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity for pump foils going in that direction. So yeah, we've got a range of pump foils coming out in the new year.
Oh, beautiful.
We're also obviously working on the downwind foils.
Yeah.
And it's been something we kind of been working on for about a year now. We're holding off release. We're really happy benchmarking against all our major competitors, especially doing the M2O. Seeing all of their wings, we've been really lucky to benchmark against all of those products. We obviously buy all of our competitors' products, test them, but most importantly, just making sure that we're able to push that next step further forward. And I think we're still playing catch up on the downwind for sure, and the pump. But there's some brands that have had some great pump wings out for a few years. But when you really analyze them, you ride them day in day out, you start to realize what the pros are and sometimes what the cons are. So we're just trying to eliminate those cons and come out with what we believe, we hope to be the best pump wings, the best down wings in the future. So
Nice.
yeah, definitely something we're working on for sure.
They're actually quite hard. I was talking because I've talked to a couple brands and they were saying those big spans and to make them, because I tried one and I found it and I was winging with it, but it was obviously it's designed to be slow, but it just hit a brick wall. So I was like, obviously winging with those, like
they've got to the max.
So if you're thinking like, oh, okay,
Max
it's like
top speed.
this is such a big span, it would be a great wing to wing on. It was like, it hit the wall really quickly. Turning it, it turned, but obviously because it has a wide wingspan, it's for a specific purpose. So that's what, because I got to try one of them this summer. I think it was a 1650 or something. And and it was not meant for the conditions that I was in, but I'm curious because everybody's going that route. And we interviewed a couple athletes like Marcella Witt, and she was saying, "Oh, downwinding is going to be easy," but as soon as she hops on a paddle, you're like, "This is so much harder than I had anticipated," and I can just picture through your head, right? Because you're like, right, you're on a skinny stand-up paddleboard, and you touch down, and then you got to get up on foil somehow. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like I love the evolution.
Definitely a magic.
I think so.
Yeah, and that's a great thing about the sport at the moment.
So much.
It's just the evolution of more brands is just cranking, and sometimes you have these little smaller brands that could have niche brands that are kind of may have a breakthrough in one direction, and sometimes you have other brands here, and I think everyone's just that's the fun of it at the moment. That's what I'm fizzing off on a daily basis is the just being responsible for the product. Like is just seeing all these different avenues that you can specific. Like we're going from a generic foil that does everything to these really niche areas where they need very specific design characteristics to get the performance you're looking for, to make it easier. For example, downwinding, to get up on plane, but still have a really high top end speed and or be able to operate in slower waves or higher speed waves. So
very true.
Those choices we're making on a daily basis from design direction is can be really challenging.
Oh yeah.
But that's, I guess, if it's not hard to do, then it's normally not a lot of fun. So
yeah,
I think we've been really enjoying sort of learning and along the way and sort of implementing what we've learned, hopefully in a direction that people can appreciate the performance.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you were just mentioning about your V2 masts.
Yeah, it's just we don't have a V2 mast, but we've got in the mast we've got an aluminium mast. We call the AF a aluminium foil AF series, and we have the CF series, which is a carbon foil series, and the CF series comes in a range of different sizes: 72, 85, 95. And we are working on high modulus masts for the future. But I can't talk about that in too much detail today.
It's okay.
But no, really excited about, our bottom line at the moment is if you benchmark our carbon mast against most of our competitors and some high modulus, you'll find the stiffness of the system is quite amazing. And that's been one of the core reasons why we're selling so many carbon system versus aluminium. Don't get me wrong, aluminium system is great.
It's great to learn.
It's 30-40% less expensive, but a lot of customers getting into the sport see that and they say, well, I could buy an aluminium, but then if I spend 30, 40 more, if I'm really going to get in the sport, I may as well go carbon. So the aluminium works well for schools, centers, beginners, people who are not really that sure if they're going to get into the sport. And they can be sold easily afterwards, but most people going for carbon. And then obviously there's a percentage of the market who really want the highest performing masts possible.
Yes.
And that's where the high modulus masts come in. We're definitely working on that for the new year. So
beautiful.
I'm very excited to introduce that range. But at the moment, we're frothing about the MAs, we're frothing about the new SF series, and really excited to get some of our new wings, which we've just launched, the new Mode Pro and the new Loft, which are both of these are using some pretty cool technologies and materials. We call it NWeave 45. Just go to the northkb.com and have a look on the website. Don't need to listen to me, and there's a lot that's explained probably a lot clearer, a lot more efficiently there.
You're doing a good job.
But the NWeave 45 material is basically a UPE material, so it's a woven fabric that has a very low stretch, and then we put a film backing on the back, which has effectively a cross weave, like an X-ply, like a film basically with a weave in it, and it means that the material is incredibly stiff. It's also a lot lighter. So quite often a lot of the Dacrons that you use in most standard classic sport ranges of products, for a lot of our competitors is 160, 170 grams. We've managed to get this NW 45 down to 105 grams. So it's a really big reduction in weight. You see the Alulas of this world are 80, 85, not far off there, but they don't have the crazy price tag of Alula. Alula wing, who can afford Alula? And at the moment, that's what we've been focusing on, and trying to make really high performance wind wings that are reasonably affordable. I'm not saying they're cheap; they're definitely up there, but they're not crazy prices. And then we've in combination on both of those wings, is both on the loft and the load. We've also been playing around with some of the canopies. We've introduced a new canopy this year into the Mode Pro called the Matrix canopy. It's a little bit heavier than a standard 55 gram canopy material, but it's very stiff, and it's about 3 times stiffer, in fact, which means it feels the beginning of the season, first time you ride it on the Mode Pro, compared to 1 year later, the shape and the profile of the wing keeps its original shape. It doesn't deform and bulge and look like a shopping bag. Most of those lighter weight canopies, you look after them one season and they're just wrinkled and just nowhere near as good as the Matrix canopy. So I've been working really hard on keeping that stiffness, both on the warp, the weft, and the bias, and just making sure that it just doesn't stretch. Because when you introduce such a stiff airframe and you put a standard canopy on it, the canopy bulges. So you have to pair, I talk about the combos again, you have to pair the airframe with the stiffness of the canopy fabric. And that really allows you to have and keep that beautiful geometric shape without wrinkles and bulges, and keep the performance of the wing all the way. The other benefit of the stiffness is incredible. Like, not only does it let you go really fast and hold it down another 5-7 knots on the top end, like that's the biggest benefit out of Matrix and the Mode Pros. You can hold these wings down in another 7-10 knots of conditions, whereas normally you'd be battling and fighting your wing. The Mode Pro, you can hold on to it in every gust. You just ride it through, just depower your backhand, and you're so comfortable. But what it allows you to do is go really fast. And we know with winging, the faster you go, change your angle of attack, the higher you're going to jump. And when you've got that stiff wing, instead of it folding like a rock and plummeting and dropping down, that stiff frame holds your body weight. And when you land, you get all this beautiful hang time, and you've got that forward momentum, so that when you hit the water, you've actually got a few knots of forward momentum, and that allows you to get back up on the foil again. So it's always classic to watch anyone go out the first time on a Mode Pro. They jump way too high, they completely over-rotate, and they normally fall over straight away because they're up there for longer. So It really does help to with these wings. You'll find just first time you jump, just take it a little bit easy, just ease into it, and then kind of push yourself as you get the timing right over time. But it just, really proud of the Mode Pro range. It's a wing designed, it does everything freeride, freestyle, wave riding, but it really is a high performance freeride wing. Freeride, we meaning it's got a good bottom end, it's got a good top end. And this is our second version of the Mode. Last year it was a Mode, this year it's a Mode Pro. And we've had time to refine the design. And again, every iteration makes a huge difference in performance. So I've been really proud of that. The second wing we've got that just launched is the Loft Pro.
Yeah.
So whenever we put Pro on the end, it just means it's not a classic material. It's a next step up in performance materials. And the Loft Pro also features the NW 45. It only comes in 2 sizes though, 7 meter and 8 meter. There's a dedicated light wind wing. So really, it works in, as I said, places like Florida where it's 10 knots. If you're lucky, you get 12 knots. It starts to white cap at 12 knots. So this is what we call sub-white capping conditions, meaning you can get going in 6, 8, 10 knots depending on your technique. But I warn you, it has no top end. Like, it really is designed to just pull you up onto foil. We designed it so you don't need pump technique, where it just has this raw power, this raw grunt that drives you forward. It doesn't pull you downwind. It doesn't feel like a truck. It feels like it's pulling its power, is giving you board speed that allows you forward to come up on foil and disengage the friction from the water. So really proud of the Loft Pros. They've been selling extremely well. Actually, last year and this year it was called the Nova Lightwind last year, and we just gave it a new name, Loft, this year, and called it the Loft Pro.
We got some buddies on Vancouver Island out in Salt Spring that are like 6 to 7 knots, and they're like, what the heck? how? What do I go for? Because they're hard to come by. And even the guys, like all my buddies in Ottawa here, same thing. It's like they want to get out in that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of brands that they've tried, and there hasn't been. I'm looking forward to trying the Loft to get an idea of what I can get it going for. Like I have some years under my belt, obviously nowhere near what our wonderful pros are doing, but just to see what is that difference? It would be awesome to be able to try that thing out to see, because it's hard to come by. Some brands who are dedicated more into wave, like their bigger wings it's just a big Mack truck, and it's like everything's huge, and it's like, well, it's not that fun to ride. But I'm curious. Yeah, absolutely stoked to try it.
Yeah, there's two schools of opinion here. You can go for a large front hydrofoil wing and go for a slightly smaller big wing, wind wing. But once you're up in foil, it's kind of draggy and it's slow, and I get frustrated because there's so much drag, and your arms feel like they're getting pulled out of your sockets because your wing is taking you forward, but your foil is so slow. It's just so much strain on your body.
Yeah.
Versus going for a slightly small hydrofoil wing, which has really nice glide, low friction, and having a big wind wing that has a huge amount of power. So we've designed these wings. Some of our competitors have quite high aspect ratio wings, but you get a lot of tip strike, meaning as you're riding, the wingtips just keeps hitting the water and you keep falling over. So we've made our chord width quite narrow. So the aspect ratio is a lot lower.
Oh, okay.
And the stroke length's a little bit longer. But we believe that gives you a huge amount of power, which is manageable power. It's not, you don't have to be super careful, conscious about it. And as a guide, we kind of recommend anyone round about 85 kilograms, to 180 pounds. Anyone around that weight and below should go for the 7 meter, and anyone over 85, 180, 190 pounds should go for the 8 meter. Obviously, if you're a taller person, definitely go for the bigger wing.
Yep.
If you're a smaller person, recommend smaller wings, sort of height-wise, because that does affect it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, a lot of fun to ride. Like I never thought we were going to be riding, and it's insane. It's insane. And if you got a hydrofoil wing, which has high glide and low drag, like high efficiency, you can ride through the lulls, because if you're high enough on your board and your front wing's kind of close to the surface, you can kind of glide for a good 100 meters if you want to, before you hit that next gust. So it really does help in those conditions sometimes, versus I was saying before, having a small wing with a big hydrofoil wing. Those big hydrofoil wings just got so much drag, they don't allow you to glide through the water. So when you're starting to go out for long distance runs and you want to cruise upwind and you want to go downwind, and it's going to be steady all day, sort of 10 knots, 12 knots, you can go out with a lot more confidence, and you can really go adventuring when previously you're probably just sitting on the beach and just going, you know what, I've mowed the lawn, I've taken the kids to school, I've done everything, I've got the time off work, I've been watching the forecast, I'm at the beach, and you know what, I can't get out there. There's nothing more frustrating. So
True.
I think this is really unlocking a lot of fun sessions for a lot of people who wouldn't otherwise be able to get out on the water on that specific day.
Oh yeah, definitely. And sometimes that's all the wind you're going to have in that specific location, and it opens up the possibility of a brand new sport, a brand new thing for somebody to play with, and that's huge. That can change somebody's day for sure. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Hey, is there anything else you want to cover about? Because I know you had sent me something over about the motto for your brand, and I really like that about North and what it stood for. That was pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we've done a bit of work on the brand in the past 18 months, 2 years, where we basically took on the new NS logo from our parent company, North Sales, and we've introduced that into our products. We're still North. Nothing has changed. Our tone of voice, our messaging, we are very much still, we're trying to be a really authentic brand and we're trying to continue to be that brand that people, hopefully they like North and they like where we're going. And our ambassadors, our riders are just the nicest, most inspiring group of people you ever meet. I always say, if you come in a room and you sit down to one of our team riders, you're just like, they're people you want to get to know. They're definitely people who've arrived. They're not on their way there. They're people that know who they are, and really have experiences to share, and they're all about making everybody better, not themselves. And that's not, not over themselves, should I say.
Yeah.
So that's been a really cool part. It's a great crew internationally of pretty inspiring riders. And I think from a brand perspective, we took on this new NS logo and we're introducing it slowly. But the brand, and that's been really well received. There's a lot of brand recognition out there, especially in the world of sailing for the North Sails brand. But we're North. We're North Kiteboarding. We're North Foils. We're just North. We just happen to have the new NS logo. But most importantly, you'll see there is a horizon in that logo, and then that horizon is divided. It's got 2 half circles. For those who are just listening on the podcast, effectively you have 2 half circles, and one represents the wind, one represents the water, and that's kind of almost like a horizon line. And it's kind of north as a direction. It's somewhere you're going towards a horizon. Quite often you're adventuring, you're seeking, but most importantly, it's when that water and that wind come together. That's when you have that alchemy, that magic. That's what our sport's all about. It's all about, yes, you can have a good surf, but when, especially winging, kiting, when the wind's up or you need wind to create swell. So that alchemy of the elements of wind and water coming together, that's the world we live in. That's, kind of halfway between the low tide and the high tide. And most importantly, we celebrate constantly how freaking amazing our sports are. The North's, our tagline is "It Calls," and I think it just holds so true. It took us a long time to come to that tagline, but for us, we just did a lot of deep soul searching as to what does the sport mean to us. And I think it calls, you could be sitting there checking out the forecast, every few hours or every time it updates in the office or wherever you are in life, and you're kind of watching the whole time. But then when you look outside, and suddenly that wind shifts, and everyone's got their tree where the indicator leaves are, where you can see all there, and the hair on the back of your neck goes up, and it's on. And I think that feeling, that sport calling, it's not just the sport calling to us, but it's also just being connected to nature, I don't want to sound too hippy-dippy, but just being in nature for me is huge for all of us in the team. We all agreed that being connected to nature and having equipment that allows us to be in nature and perform at a high level riding in nature. Just those experiences. Everyone's probably got it. Those Kodak moments, those snapshots, those memories of that wave or that ride or that beautiful sunset or whatever it was, like on the water, or that experience just being with friends. That's those moments, and that's how the sport for us calls to us. So yeah, it calls as an embodiment of that emotion and how the sport makes us feel.
Yeah, that's well put, and it does. It calls. And I have a buddy who moved from Ottawa to Bali, and he wasn't connected to surf, but he's been a little bit more connected to surf since he's moved there, and just because it's all around him.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, the level of, there's just, it's something that I talk to with other friends as well, who are more seeking. I guess there's nothing wrong with seeking for as much wealth and money as possible, but it doesn't matter necessarily how much wealth or money you have with these sports. Like, you'll look at some of our athletes, and all the athletes that are pushing, it's time, it's dedication, it's passion. You can't buy that. You can't buy what some of these guys are able to do now. They've earned it over the course of 10, 15, whatever, years and all their specific disciplines. But that's another thing. It's almost like it's a bit of a badge of honor. And then to be connected with brands that see that and recognize that we carry stickers, we put them on our cars. It's so much of part of us and who we are, and how much a lot of the time we're looking for quiet spots in the middle of the woods. Old growth Vancouver Island, and that's where we sail. And it's kind of that special connection that you're like, this is where we go and this is what we do, and everybody's welcome, but you do have to earn it a little bit. You got to have a bit of grit, you got to have a bit of perseverance, and you can carry that through family life and through work life and through all that. So no, I appreciate that. I listened to that and I read it, and that was pretty cool.
Thank you, appreciate it. There's a lot of time and effort, energy, thought put into it, and just trying to reflect who we are and what we're about. But mate, isn't it great, that feeling, that community? I mean, just for me, I love the kiting, foiling, proning, towing, surfing, downwinding. Like, there's just all these little pockets of crews that I'm in a WhatsApp group for half of them, but we go somewhere and we just ride together, we share that experience. And I think you're right. Like in comparison to surfing, I spent most of my life surfing and been some pretty inhospitable places where locals are just localism and everything else is. And what a breath of fresh air kiting and foiling is, because, especially in kiting, you need somebody to launch your kite, land your kite. So you see everyone's naturally super friendly. And I think foiling, because it's such a new sport, we've got such an incredible, I love foiling because there's winging specifically, because there's so many more women coming into the sport. Now, it's in comparison to other sports, it's 25-30%. And that for me just means so much. I've got two young girls, 17 and 19, and I've got my youngest one's getting into it, and it's really nice to have those communities. So I don't want to ramble on, but I'm definitely with you. It's huge. Yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely. And it's opening up, it's opening up sport for anywhere for up to, because the median age, I think, of our wonderful podcast listeners are like 65, right? And it's like they've converted.
It's an older ball.
Yeah.
That's the downside of our sport, especially winging, is it is more expensive. And I talked before, kind of touched on it, that it is a luxury water sport. It's unfortunate. I wish it could be more affordable, and we're always trying, but it is unfortunate for those who've got the disposable income, who have the time to be able to go and do a sport. We should all consider ourselves pretty darn privileged to be able to be in this time period in life, to be able to go out, experience this new sport, and have the feelings that we're buzzing about. But I think we have to also recognize, sort of humbly, that it is more expensive. And if you do, I always tell everybody, like, if you can teach somebody, bring somebody on board, if you don't mind, maybe it's a wing that you've had a couple of seasons and it's not really worth a lot, then just to find those people that have the passion but maybe don't have the income to do that, and share it with them. I'm pretty shocking. I'm always finding people that I kind of patch gear together and try and get them out on the water, But it is, we have to recognize it is reasonably expensive, especially when you get into the higher end materials and products.
It is. And I had Willow River Tonkin on the show. So he's a pro rider from Core, and he was working, I'm just looking it up now here, because he was working with I'm not going to be able to find it now, am I? But he had a surf to serve. So I'm finding that some athletes are coming forward and they're helping in this area, where they're developing these kind of grassroots not-for-profit projects. This is a bit more surfing oriented, but I'm sure it's going to expand in different areas as well. And they do take in a whole bunch of gear. So a little shout out to Willow for what he's doing over in Mauritius. But there is support. There is helping that to be able to kind of help. And I know some schools, like the school I work with, Elevation there on Van Island, they do their best as well to help out anybody that can come out that can afford. And we're always doing our best to help out. And on the other spectrum, it's giving people who are older an opportunity to extend that sporting life.
Absolutely. Like I look at my dad as a prime example. He didn't learn to kiteboard until he was 65.
Oh, good for him.
And he's now 79, and he's still kiteboarding. Unfortunately, he's just had a couple of injuries this year. He broke his wrists and he's sprained his leg kiting about 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But he's frothing to get into foiling. And
that's so awesome.
I think there's just the impact on the body is just not as high. You haven't got that constant banging and shattering like you do with a kiteboard or a surfboard, and I think it's just I'm hoping. Hey, look, I hope I can keep foiling into my 80s. That's the game plan. That's the goal. Just slide in there, just body completely exhausted. That's kind of the goal.
Awesome.
But I think you're right. Just trying to share the sport with as many people as possible. So, like I'm always just trying to not to make money, but just genuinely, it sounds wrong, but just genuinely to share the stoke. It's how do you get more people into the sport and share what we've been so privileged and lucky to experience.
Oh yeah, no, like we're fortunate that this whole kind of genre found us, because it adds so much to your life, and definitely, and it's great to be able to connect with so many different enthusiasts and people who have been in the sport for such a long time, right? Like, that's pretty cool that you've been able to be in that.
Your job must be quite fun,
It's
Luke. I mean,
fun,
you get to interview lots of pretty cool people. I mean, how do you find that?
It's really cool and humbling in the sense that it's such an honor to be able to have those conversations with people, right? Because I found Win through a very serious motorcycle accident, and I lost that motorcycle community. And then when I found Win community, it just brought me in. It was like, whoa, so I can camp in the wilderness and do this, and it strengthens my body. And then it's like, whoa. So then it became an extension of who I was. So then to be able to have these conversations with people who are fortunate to find it before me. I found it at 29, but they found it at 10, 13. I was like, whoa, how does that feel? Like, where did life bring you because you found this? Yeah. Like, did it make you into this kind of person, or did it help teach you this, or what did you learn from it? And that's the kind of cool aspect. So no, it's becoming more and more fun for me. And obviously I was super nervous at the start, but we're getting there.
Dude, you're killing it, man. You're doing really well. Hey, just a quick shout out to you. I mean, I thank you for spreading the word, and spreading the love. I think that's why, as soon as you reached out, I was super keen to come and have a chat to you, because I think the work you do is really important. Just to, not everyone has time to sit down and watch videos, but you can throw a podcast on, you can put it on 1.2 speed, which I quite often do, just to, sometimes it's a little, not saying you, but others can be a little bit slow. And I mean, just to get that wealth of information. I mean, and how lucky are we now on this day of podcasts to be able to, I'm dyslexic, so I read so slowly. So audio and podcasts for me are just such an amazing way to learn and to understand other people's perspectives. So my massive shout out. Well done.
No, for sure. No, I appreciate your time today as well, because I know you guys are working on a bunch of things behind the scenes, which is really exciting. And so when is the MA launch? That's coming up?
It's coming up literally, I think, in the next week. Okay. So, I'm hoping when the podcast is live, hopefully within, if it's not on the website, then check in the next days and hopefully it is. If not, please subscribe to our newsletter. We've got we don't bombard you. It's minimal posts. It's normally only when something is important or it's good information, but please feel free to sign up to our newsletter. I think you get pinged when you land on the website. The website's northkb.com. For all foiling stuff, please download the North Foil Rider's Guide. It gives you all of the information you could ever want, way more efficiently than I do. It's got all the charts. It tells you what wings to put with what stabilizers, and it recommends a difference. It's also got some really cool links to our designer's notes videos, where you get to go. I'm not an engineer, so where our engineers and designers can go into absolute detail on the performance characteristics of materials, the measurements, all that sort of stuff. If you just want to geek out like I do sometimes and just check it out, then you can sort of dive deep into the designer's notes on our YouTube channel.
How beautiful.
So just subscribe to the YouTube channel on North Foils, or not kiteboarding if you're into kiting. And you can just see all those updates to the videos and new products and interviews with riders and all that whole side of it. And we've also got, just to mention, we've also got a Facebook page called North Foil Riders, and where it's just a community of people sort of coming in together, sharing what they're doing and what they're up to. And or just follow us on Instagram is another easy way. Okay. Just North Foils. And you can sort of track what we're doing and what we're up to.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, thanks for joining me today and taking the time. And is there any wind out there? Are you going to maybe sneak out for a half
there isn't.
hour?
Well, actually, you know what? There is. This afternoon, I think it's about 17, 20 knots southwest. It's going to be epic. We've got our Christmas party. We booked it early to try and get a good deal in town. Enough. So I think we're going to go and have a bit of an adventure, and then have some food and a couple of drinks to sort of celebrate, just end of the year.
Sounds good.
Get around together.
Well, hey, hope that goes well.
Yeah, very excited. So unfortunately not on the waters today.
No, that's
hopefully over the weekend. It's Friday. Forecast looks good Saturday, Sunday. So
oh, beautiful.
Definitely keen to get out. Got some get tests, so excited.
All right, Mike. Hey, thanks for joining me, man. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Luke. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. We'll see you next time.